motherfucking Master of Puppets, man.
I was getting there. I was getting to that.
Well, too bad.
I
got it. This is my intro, damn it. I'm introing this shit.
That's fair. Okay, Master of Puppets, right? Where would it go in your honorable mentions? How close was it to 10? Like top 10?
I don't know if I would put it at 11, but it's at least one of the more important albums that just didn't make it.
Yeah.
And only because it was a long time ago and I just like other shit more now.
Yeah.
But still doesn't change the fact that when Eddie busts the title track out in Stranger Things, I was like, fuck yeah, dude.
I still never got to that episode. I was watching Stranger Things with a girl, and you know when you're watching something with someone you like, you're not like, if you're not already dating, right? And someone comes over and you're like, hey, we should watch Stranger Things, or we should watch, whatever. If they say yes to that, there's a pretty good chance that if they're coming over to your place to watch something, you're not going to be watching a whole lot, if you know what I mean. And so I didn't catch a whole lot of Stranger Things, and we did not continue through season 4 because we stopped talking. So
nice.
Yeah. Hopefully she doesn't see this. Hopefully she doesn't still follow me on Instagram. But I guess it's too late. I already.
Well, yeah, you would be waiting a while because that was literally the last episode of the season, which was a 2.5 fucking hour episode.
No way.
Which
Absolutely
is just
not.
stupid. But
yeah,
that
I'm
scene
not
is
gonna,
awesome.
Yeah. It's so awesome that even the band Metallica uses it as footage at their concerts now. When they're playing Master of Puppets in the background on that big ass screen, they'll play that scene from Stranger Things. And they fully embrace it, and that's awesome. Did you see the video of them inviting the actor backstage? Yeah, that's really cool. And the band, they're like, yeah, our kids, we watch Stranger Things with our kids, and like that was really cool. And I said, yeah, it is really cool, James.
Yeah, expose a lot more people to real Metallica that's not Enter Sandman.
Right, which is, I think this is a whole separate conversation entirely, but whenever you do have a song like that breaks into a piece of media that younger generations are getting access to and they enjoy and want to get into that band or that artist, don't gatekeep shit. Don't be the guy that's like, oh, I've been listening to them longer than you have, so it's like, nah, man, if kids are willing to get into your shit or your favorite band's music, that should be a good thing, right? So anyway, that's my rant on gatekeeping. But Metallica is in the mainstream again, which is so weird. I never thought we'd be here. I never thought we'd get to this point. Because we always liked Metallica, but even we fell off eventually,
Yeah.
Do you remember the first time you heard Master of Puppets?
Do you remember when Mr. Marmingos brought it in and we had to do a journal writing about Orion?
Yeah, and we had to draw a picture and write a story to an 8.5 minute song. Was it 8.5, 9 minutes? Something like that?
Yeah.
Purely instrumental, and
that was the first time I heard it.
That was the first time you heard it?
Yeah.
No, did you go home and listen to the whole album?
And I recognized, I was like, oh shit, my dad has that CD. Let me go listen to it. And then the second song I heard was the title track. Because I skipped Battery because I wanted to hear the song that's on the cover,
Yeah, that's fair.
So yeah, Puppets was the second one. And then I listened to the whole thing.
Wow. So that was 6th grade. That was really early.
Yeah.
Do you remember exactly how you felt after listening to it for the first time? Were you...
I did not like Damage Inc.
I was going to say...
That's about all I remember.
I feel like with all of our favorite albums, it's very rare that you listen to it for the first time all the way through and love it the same way that you do, days or months or years later after the fact once it hits your top 10 list, because sometimes it just takes time for an album or a piece of media to mean something to you. Sometimes it's immediate, and that's lovely. That's great. But other times it's the opposite, right? Where at first you really love it, and then later on you stop enjoying it as much, or you're more critical of it later. But yeah, Master of Puppets. So the first time Damage Inc. was not your jam.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Yeah. What about now?
That's soon changed. The only song I don't really care for now is Disposable Heroes, which might be blasphemy for some.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, it's too long and not that interesting.
That's fair. I feel similarly.
But I love that chorus. So good.
Yeah.
Back to the front, that whole part.
Oh yeah, that's Disposable Heroes.
Yeah.
I just assume that any song that I can't remember off the top of my head is probably a forgettable one, but there are moments in forgettable songs that you really like. You know.
Yeah, then Sanitarium would go on to be my favorite song by them.
Yeah, for a really
dethroning
long time.
Creeping Death after some time. So it wasn't my immediate favorite.
So you had already listened to Metallica before that, right?
No, it just became my favorite later on. But that was the first.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because very soon after that, that's when Death Magnetic came out. And then Josh. I still remember that whole thing. That's a whole fucking other subject. But
yeah.
Yeah. Everything else, like Battery, of course, is still a great jam.
It's a great intro, too.
The Thing That Should Not Be. I love the S&M version.
I was going to say, I think The Thing That Should Not Be has one of the crunchiest, heaviest riffs I've ever heard. Just the chromatic bum 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 bana bum bana bum bana bum 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 bum. It sounds like big ass footsteps.
Yeah,
Godzilla footsteps coming at you.
But yeah, I just love what the symphony did with it for S&M. I thought it was really good. And then beyond that, then all we have left is Leper Messiah, which is the main riff is fun, but it's definitely the odd one out on here.
The only reason I remember Leper Messiah is I think there's footage of Lars having trouble. No, is that the Shortest Straw?
The Guitar Hero thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was Shortest Straw.
Damn it. All right. Well, yeah, Leper Messiah, I keep confusing as something that goes on Justice, I guess. But, Leper Messiah is fun. I'm trying to remember exactly how that one...
Da-dum, ba-na-na-dum, da-da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da, yeah. It's a decent jam. It just... it's compared to everything else.
Oh, is that the one where Lars you can hear someone go 1, 2, 3?
Yeah, that's the intro. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. It's all coming back to me now.
Yeah, and then of course Orion again is still like one of the best instrumentals.
Have you heard the Rodrigo and Gabriella version of that, the acoustic version?
I don't remember it. I think Josh showed that to me like fucking years ago, but I don't remember.
So that duo from that same album had a song in Breaking Bad that I recognized, the one that goes and I was like, oh shit, that's Rodrigo and Gabriella, because I bought that album and it had 2 discs. I couldn't remember if it was because it was a double album or if I got the deluxe version, but I found it at half price and I was so surprised to find that album. But I was like, yeah, that's sick. And that version of Orion, I think Josh showed it to me too, but I listened to that version I think more times than the original version in my lifetime. Yeah. And then what's the end of Master of Puppets?
Damage Inc.
Damage Inc.
Yeah.
It's only 8 songs. That's wild. Like those first couple of albums that were just 8 songs long. I think it was Ride the Lightning, Kill 'Em All had 10, right? 10 or 11?
10.
Yeah, and then Justice also had 8?
9.
Yeah. So, for whatever reason in my head, I thought that a bunch of the first ones.
And then beyond that, there's like a million songs on every album. Yeah. Like over 10.
Yeah. I think 10 is a very solid. I feel like an album that has 10 to 12 songs is like perfect length. Anything more than 10 or more than 12 or less than 10 has to justify its length in some way, cuz for Sonic Highways it was like, oh yeah, each one was recorded with a different guest artist in a different city. That's cool. With Metallica, I couldn't ever tell you why Master and Ride the Lightning only had 8 songs. Maybe it was the length, and they could only physically print on like records a certain amount, because they were still cutting the tape back then too.
Yeah.
So it was like you only had so much space. But yeah, now when an album comes out,
maybe because back then they actually, like, when they wrote songs that weren't the greatest, they said, all right, let's not do this one.
yeah,
Unlike now, where they just put everything.
yeah, because I will say I don't think music marketing or music business has been any less harmful to the creative process than it is now. I feel like it's always kind of been, you have the creatives on one side and it's like they want to do one thing, but then the music business people are here on the other end and they're like, nah, you gotta, do this instead. I think that's always been a thing, and then you watch shit like Elvis and you're like, oh yeah, that it's always been a thing, business people trying to like interrupt the creative process or get, a part of that.
Dude, I hated Elvis. That was a horrible movie.
Like Baz Luhrmann. Did he direct that one? I think so.
I don't know. Just that's we're not talking about that. It was just a disaster.
But yeah, I feel like with Metallica, they probably definitely had a little bit more creative freedom back then, because thrash metal was not a popular, like they were basically the band to popularize thrash metal. It was their first music video, One, on MTV, was really, really popular. And then, of course, they came out with the Black album, and that wasn't really thrash anymore. But at that point, it had gotten a lot of people to go back and listen to those old albums. And I remember there was a scene in the movie Old School where they play Master of Puppets out of like a van. And I remember thinking, oh, that's cool. But that just cemented to me that there were a lot of middle-aged men in the 2000s that really liked like the early Metallica albums. And now it's coming up on 40 years old. It's like 86, right? Was when it came out. Yeah. It's almost 40. It's almost a 40-year-old album. And it's like, it's wild to think that, because when we were younger, even in like 2007, an album being 40 years old meant that it came out in the 60s. And now it's like 20 years later, and time isn't real. Time is fake. Nothing matters. Nothing else matters.
Nice.
But thank you. Master of Puppets is it's a fine record. It's a good record. Do you believe it's their best record? Like, genuinely from an objective standpoint.
Objectively, I kind of want to say Justice is, but I don't know. It's definitely, Justice is like the one that's like the elevated one. They went one step beyond. Actually, I believe that them losing to Jethro Tull that year for like the Grammy or whatever, I think that's what killed everything, and that's why they went to like the Black Album style. Because like we went all out in this one and like didn't work, so fuck it, we're just gonna do this instead.
I mean, and that's fair, but
Puppets, it's definitely my favorite, but I'm teetering between best with this one and Justice.
Sure. Yeah, because I get what you're saying. I know Justice on a technical level was very impressive, even though you can't hear the bass. And but beyond that, I feel like the playing is really impressive, and the song writing, I never really paid attention to the actual words of Metallica songs until someone else had after the fact been like, "Hey, did you know that Master of Puppets was about drugs?" And I was like, "Whoa!" But I think one was the first song that I had actually listened to the lyrics for, like song wise, partially because of Guitar Hero, but also partially because of the cleans in the first however many minutes of that song. But yeah, so if you're listening to this on YouTube or if you're whatever, like, let us know what your favorite Metallica album is, what you think their best is, because I think, like we mentioned in the beginning, this is not the last time we're going to talk about Metallica. Obviously, we're going to talk about 72 Seasons when that comes out in April.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm sure we're going to go see them when they play with Pantera. I think that's the first night. I think that's the first night that they're in Chicago. We have to see them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you will definitely hear more about Metallica. But yeah, somewhere in the top 15 maybe albums.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's no definitive spot for it for you.
I didn't feel like figuring out 11 to 20. I just fuck that. I don't feel like it.